Greetings, friend. I will show you how Simon Anthony of Cracking the Cryptic solved this classic Sudoku submitted on Twitter by Wolfric. By placing marks in the grid, you can click on the link below if you want to try this puzzle yourself. I'm going to explain each expert tip, trick, and strategy that Simon used, plus what he may have missed in my pause the video and what if moments. That'll help you analyze alternate solve paths. And with that, it's solving time. So Simon starts out with some Snyder notation. He notices with the ones in columns 1 and 3, there's only 2 spots for 1 here in block 7, with this other one in row 9. And he marks some 3s in block 2, in rows 1 and 3 there in column 5. And then he marks 6s in blocks 3. After the 6s, he marks these 8s in block 9, rows 7 and 8 in column 9, and then 7s in block 9, rows 7 and 8 and rows 8 and 9 here in column 8. And he marks, he says, this bottom box is quite interesting. And just a refresher, Snyder notation, anywhere you see in a block where there's only candidates only in 2 possible places, you mark those down. So in case you're able to solve like this 7 in another part of this row, then you can immediately mark and solve that for a 7. So Simon sees the 8s here, the 7s here, and then he's able to mark the 4s in only 2 spots. And so you see there's a lot of restriction going on in this bottom block with these cells coming in. But this brings us up to our first pause the video moment. Pause the video and find the naked single that's here in block 9 while I'll give you a few seconds. And a reminder, naked single is basically when there's only one possibility in the cell. Okay? Congratulations if you spot it. You're getting really good at finding these naked singles. For those who just want to enjoy the show, it is 3 in row 9, column 7. And Simon does find that, and so he marks the 3 right there. And moving on with the 8s, you know, these 8s are now, they're a pointing pair, right? They're limited to these 2 spots in block 9, and so they can't be in these spots here. This 8's come down here, so now the 8s are limited to 2 spots up here in block 6. So that's what we call a pointing pair. So he marks those 8s in block 6, then marks 3s up in block 3. So this 3 does a lot of work for us. So it comes up column 7, and now with this 3 across row 2, there's only 2 spots for 3. So this is another pointing pair. And so the 3s are limited to row 1 here in block 3. What does that mean? Well, if they have to be in one of these 2 spots, they can no longer be here. So Simon notices that, and thanks to Snyder notation, now he can immediately solve for 3 in block 2. So there's a 3 in row 3, column 5. Then he switches his focus to the 1s. He moves down into block 5 and notices, hey, there's only 2 spots for 1 here. And now you're seeing this is another pointing pair because this 1 comes up column 5, this 1's across row 4, so these 1s are right here. So now they have pointing pair. So now 1 cannot be in either one of these 2 spots. So that's another pointing pair. This puzzle has quite a few of those pointing pairs, and that's really, I think, the key to making progress in solving this particular puzzle. So after the 1s in block 5, he switches over to the 7s, and notice there's only 2 spots for 7 in block 2, and then looks at the 9s. And now you have this 9 coming up and the 9 over. And I don't think he'd really looked at 9s before. But this creates another pointing pair of 9s. So now the 9s are limited to row 2 in block 3. And this is powerful again because now these 9s, along with this 9 in row 1, puts, in this 9 here in column 1, it puts a lot of pressure on block 1. And you notice the cells that had the most filled out in this puzzle at the beginning were here down in block 9 and block 1. So now these are where you can kind of focus, center of gravity, if you will, of where you're going to make your initial solving. And so after he does this pointing pair of 9s, he's able to solve for a 9 in row 3, column 2, right? Because now the 9s can't be in either of these spots. And this is key because now it's going to start, we're going to start to see how these restrictions are going to help us move on with this puzzle. So after you solve that 9, you always want to look, hey, what are the ramifications of that? And so what we did is now it limits the 9s to these 2 spots here in block 7. So Simon marked that, And then notice now this 4 and 6. You see how they come through? Well, now the 4 and 6, since they come through row 2, there's only 2 spots left for the 4 and 6 here in block 1. So now that's going to create a naked pair for us. And so he marks the 4 and 6 naked pair. And this is huge. Once you can get these in here like that, those are lock candidates, those two. Now it puts a bunch of restriction here on block 1 and starts making some restrictions coming down column 1 as well. So he notices there's only 2 cells left and only 2 more candidates left. So Simon's able to mark that for a 5 and an 8. And these 5 and 8, they're a lock candidate naked pair, but they're also end up being pointing pairs. Now the 5s are kind of pointing across row 2 along with the 8s, and that's going to help us out. And so Simon next marks the 8s in block 2. It says, okay, pointing pair of 8s. You got an 8 in row 3, so there's only 2 spots for an 8 right there. And then with the 5s coming up, and the 5s across row 2, this now becomes a 3-5 naked pair. And so now you've put more restrictions here on block 3, and this is how we're moving forward with the puzzle. Then he marks some 5s in block 2. And, he's just working up here in it's called a band, right? The rows 1, 2, and 3. But then he starts slowing down a little bit. But this brings us up to our second pause the video moment. There's a hidden single that Simon could have solved that would have helped him move on with the puzzle. And so I'm going to tell you, pause the video and see if you can find a hidden single 6 at this point while I give you a few seconds. Okay, congratulations if you spot it. This 6 was actually here since the beginning of the puzzle. For those who just want to enjoy the show, the hidden single 6 is right there in row 8, column 5, because you got the 6 coming across row 7 and down column 4. Simon didn't see that right away. He was looking up here. But that's would have helped him create some more restrictions over here in block 7 and also helped him solve a 6 right here in block 5, and he could have moved on with the puzzle. So Simon didn't see this 6 at this time. Instead, he looks up. He's still focused up here in rows 1, 2, and 3, and he marks 2s in block 3. Then comes down and notices that 6 and is able to solve that 6 in row 8, column 5, and uses and works his way up to block 5 and sees there's only 1 spot left for a 6 there in row 4, column 6, and then he marks the 6s in block 4. And at that point, he looks down here and he's like, this block 8, this is a powerful square, because now there's some pressure going in here on block 8. And what he does first is he puts the 2s in block 8. So see how this 2's coming down column 4? He puts the 2s right here. So now these 2s are a pointing pair going into block 7. That's nice. But then also the 5s do the same thing. So the 5's coming across row 7 and puts the 5s as a pointing pair in column 4. And this is great, right? Because now as a pointing pair, the 5s are limited to these 2 spots in column 4 here in block 8. This can no longer be a 5. And so he's able to solve row 3, column 6 for a 5. And from there, he comes over here and he's able to solve this for a 4 as a naked single. See how there's 1, 2, 3, no 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he solves row 3, column 4 as a 4, naked single, which brings us over here to block 1. He's able to solve that 6. He's able to solve the 4. And then he moves his way across here to solve this 6. And see how that spiral notation plays into creating some quick solves later on. Now he has a full house here in row 3. And so he solves that for a 2. And then you see how this 2 affects block 6. And he makes marks of 2s right there in rows 4 and 6 in column 8. And now if you're looking up here, Simon kind of finishes out the marking up here in block 3. See how this is a 3-5 naked pair? Well, the 1s are limited to these 2 spots, so that makes that a 1-9 naked pair as well. And what this helps do is it solidifies where everything is in block 3, but also across row 2. And now, seeing these 1s come across row 2 and this 1 up column 5, we're able to solve for a 1 in block 2. So he's able to solve row 1, column 4 for a 1, which helps us solve for an 8 in row 1, column 5. He looks at the 8s and marks some 8s here in block 5. And then now, focuses back on the 1 and sees, oh, well, we just marked this 1 here, so that's no longer a 1. There's only one spot left for a 1 here in block 5. So he solves that, looks and uses that to come over and see, okay, 2 spots left here in column 7, and only one of those can be a 1. So he marked that, solves that 1, and then solves that for an 8. And this kind of reminds me, at this point, I'll bring it to my tutorial where I talk about all single cell solving combinations. I'll put a link to that right here, because once you start making solves, you want to see what are the ramifications, and then you want to look and see where are the most restrictions. So in this case, after solving this one, the most restrictions are coming in column 7. So you're able to kind of solve that pretty quickly, and then you're starting to fill up the grid, and it just makes the solving easier as you progress along in the puzzle. So after solving the 1 and the 8, he's able to come across and solve for an 8 here in row 4, column 4. And then notices now the 6 has a naked pair with the 8, so it's a 6-8 naked pair. And he looks across, starts looking across row 5, and notices, hey, the 7s are in these 2 spots, so the 7's only got 1 spot left here in row 5. So he's able to mark that for 7, but he does miss solving for the 7 here and finishing up block 2. He actually changes his focus, and instead of going up, he goes back and finishes row 5 and puts in the 4s and the 5s across there. After the 4s and the 5, he switches his focus to the 4s. You see there's 2 4s here in column 4 and column 6. So he marks those 4s in block 5, then looks at the 6s and marks, he kind of changes his focus and comes all the way down here to block 7 and marks those 6s, and then looks, now he's focusing on this part of the grid, and then looks at these 3s and this 3 coming down column 2 and marks 3s in block 7. And now he looks at this 4 and he's like, I wonder what kind of restriction the 4's having on column 1 here. And so first he looks like, where's the greatest restriction here? And he sees there's 3 cells coming across, 3, 5, 6, 1, 4, 9. And so he makes a mark of the 7 and 8. And remember, this 2 is a pointing pair, so that can't be a 2 either. And then comes down and looks at row 9, column 1, and says, okay, the 3s, the 2s are pushing a lot right there. That makes a 5, 8, or 5, 7, excuse me, 5, 7. And this was really neat because he finds a naked triple. And I'll highlight that for you right now, because look at that. Those 3 cells, 5, 8, 7, 8, and 5, 7, form a naked triple. And this is where Simon shows some really great intuition, because it's not apparent that this is the next place you need to be looking in the puzzle. In fact, you'd probably want to focus over here. Like he could have done the solve the 7 and then the 2, and then kind of worked his way in block 5. So this is really cool. So this is going to bring us up, though, to our first what if moment. What if Simon didn't find this naked triple? Now, where else could you solve in this puzzle? And I'll show you that right now. All right, so let's remove the colors. And like I said, the first thing you could do is come over here, solve this for a 7, and solve that for a 2. Once you solve this for a 2, you can solve this for a 2, and now you see you're putting quite a bit of restriction here in block 8. So the other place you could go, you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, you got a 5, 7, and a 9, the 7 and the 5, so you can actually solve this for a 9. And then this creates a 5, 7, and a 5, 7. And then you can see right here, you have 1 spot you can solve here in block 5. So you can solve that for a 9. And so this leaves you with a 4, 5 naked pair in the middle. And you can see going along this route, you're putting a lot of restrictions. And the other thing you'll notice is here is that the 7s are now, I'll try to highlight this for you. The 7s are now restricted in blocks 8 and 9. They're now restricted in blocks 8 and 9 to rows 8 and 9. And so if they're restricted in these 2 spots here, it's kind of like a little X-wing, which means the 7 has to be in row 7 here in block 7. So what we know is that this could no longer be a 7. And so you'd be able to remove that as a 7 and solve this for 5. And so then you would be able to solve that for 5 and not a 7, and then you can move on and solve this 8 and this solves 5. And so without seeing this naked triple, this is the other way you could have went around solving that puzzle. Cool. So let's go back to the original solve. All right, so Simon didn't go down that route. Instead, he focused on this 5, 7, 8 naked triple, which was really good intuition on his part. And he looks and goes, okay, these 7s are now locked candidates. They're locked into column 1. And you have the 7 coming down column 2. So there's only, and then across rows 4 and 5, there's only one spot left for a 7 here in block 4. So he's able to solve for a 7 in row 6, column 3, which creates a 2. And then he looks back and says, all right, I got to fill out the rest of column 1. So the 2, 3 naked pair in column 1 there, row 6, column 1, row 8, column 1. Then focus on what I can do with the 7s. Now he comes back up and goes, oh yeah, I forgot about that 7. But he actually doesn't fill in the 2. He just fills in the 7 right there. Then looks down in block 8 and goes, oh, the 7's right here, so now the 7s are limited to these 2 spots. This is the 5, 7 naked pair. And he misses a chance to clean up block 2. He also misses a chance to clean up column 6. He could have finished this 2 right there. Or, yes, he could have finished the 2 in column 6 as well. You can see there's just a lot going on. He's more focused on solving this problem down here in the bottom band. Some of the comments from the viewers, what they say is like Simon has this really keen knack for finding the weakest of all the cells. There was a lot of new solvers that were watching this particular video. It's still in 2019, it was still pretty early on for them. And they were getting tuned into this video because of the whole breakout video they had, which was solving Sudoku with only 4 digits. And a lot of people were telling them that it took them 45 minutes to 2 hours to solve this particular puzzle. So he was introducing the world, all these new people to Sudoku solving, which is kind of cool. All right. Now, what Simon figures out is, hey, 7's here, 5, 7, 5, 7. This can no longer be a 7. It's got to be a 4, so he figures out that he can solve a 7. So he solves a 7 up there in row 8, column 8, but he doesn't solve the 4 right away. In fact, he comes back and goes, oh, well, I solved this 7, and there was only 2 7s here in block 8, so now I can solve that 7 in row 9, column 4. And solve the 5, and then go back over and solve this 5. And he kind of works his way back up and finishes out that naked triple area and the 5 and the 8 up here in block 1. So he solves the 8, he solves the 5 in row 2, column 3, and then he comes back and marks the 5s in block 2, because he got a 5 here and a 5 here. Solves that 7. Then comes back over and looks in block 8 and says, okay, I have a 9 coming down, column 6. I can solve for a 9 in row 7, column 5. And I can solve for that 2 in row 7, column 6. And now he's kind of doing some cleanup and realizes only, there's a full house here in column 4. So he can solve that for a 9 in row 6, column 4. Puts 2 9s in block 6. See, now there's a 9 in rows 5 and 6, so he marks those spots. Simon's pretty good about going back and doing the Snyder notation. After that, he marks this 4, 5 naked pair here in block 5, which leads him to see, oh yeah, I got to finish that 2 up there in block 2. So 2 in row 2, column 5. Then, after searching, comes back down and remembers the 4 in row 9, column 8, and he says, oh, I should have caught this earlier. He finishes off and makes it a 1, 8 naked pair, and now these 1s are a pointing pair here in column 9. So he looks up and goes, oh, yep, that can't be a 1 anymore. And so he's able to make some more solving for the 1 in row 2, column 8, and then the 9 in row 2, column 9. And focuses back down on the 9. So, oh, I just eliminated this 9 here. So now there's a 9 in row 4, column 8, which takes away the 2. So he solves the 2 in row 6, column 8. After 2 in row 6, column 8, he solves a 3 in row 4, column 9. and works his way across. And notice there's only 1 3 left here in block 4. So he solves that for 3, and he solves for 2, and finishes off column 1. And it's at this point, 19 cells remaining. Simon Anthony cracks the puzzle. It's all naked hidden singles. From here, he does make a few extra marks, but try to guess the remaining solve path as I fill in the digits. So first, he makes a 4 5 mark in row 6, column 2, but then he looks down and solves a 9 in row 9, column 3, then a 6 in row 9, column 2, then the 6 in row 5, column 3, then the 8 in row 5, column 2. He makes some 8 marks across block 7 and some 4s as well. All right, then the next one he solves is a 4 in row 3, row 4, column 3, which was a naked single. After the 4, he solves a 4 in row 6, column 5, then the 5 in row 4, column 5, a 5 in row 6, column 2, a 2 in row 4, column 2, a 1 in row 8, column 2, the 4 in row 7, column 2, and he cuts across and does the 1 in row 7, column 9, the 8 in row 8, column 9, the 8 in row 7, column 3, the 3 in row 8, column 3, the 4 in row 5, column 9, 5, row 5, column 8, 5 in row 1, column 9, and finishes off with the 3 in row 1, column 8. Do you like my analysis videos of Simon Anthony from Cracking the Cryptic? Then check out these 2 other analysis videos. I think you'll love them. Don't forget to buy me a coffee page. Click on the link below if you want to help support the channel. Thank you so much for watching.